So to my mixtapes, my mixtapes. What is he? Birdman gets asked by people at church why he puts out artists and music that poison the community, as if he wants to be, if he wants to you to do better. So this is that age old. It's probably never gonna end. Even though it's hip hop these days, even as like toxic to the community as they would say it was in like the gangster rap era. I mean, what are you? I mean, I guess
That's
it's
an
toxic.
interesting question. I would lean no. Like I wouldn't say that it's generally positive, but I think there is less negativity in general being
I mean, I asked
promoted.
that and we say that, but I suppose NBA YoungBoy is like the most popular artist, and I don't think they're really known for
Well,
making
I think
good music.
when I say that, like, what's the number one problem that people in general have with rap? And I think that would be promoting the selling drugs in particular, right? If I don't know if y'all would agree with that, but I think that's probably the number one thing that people look at.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Is that really
I think it would be a combination of uh, drug, sex, and violence that
okay?
trafficking.
Yeah, okay, maybe like gang violence, probably yes. I would say that's probably bigger than drugs. I think that's definitely still gets promoted as far as drugs, selling drugs. I think it's more about doing drugs now,
Yeah,
but
right.
that's an interesting question.
Fair enough. So yeah, we'll play it again. Maybe I was listening to something else. I remember this audio being kind of tough to. Like, I don't know if we'll walk away with the full like doctorate explanation of what his response would be to this, but let's try to glean what we can.
He looks like he's about to say some BS, bro. I can't lie, but let's
In
hear
the
it.
church.
My question
Oh my
to
lord.
you is, if you know and understand everything that is going on, why are you continuing to push out music that poisons the community?
I don't feel that I don't feel that part goes into every speak about me in general. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just feel like I have kids of my own. My music gonna make my child go do nothing unrespectable. I think respect come at home. You can't dictate what I do on saying my words have something to do with his kids and how he controls his life. Controlling his life gonna start with his parents.
Right. Now, hold on. We all can agree.
Hold on, Chris. Hold on 1 second. One moment. Excuse us. One moment. We're here to stop the violence. We're here to put a new mindset in the
I want to speak his mind. So what you feel, huh?
Right. So we all can agree that music is very influential, even though
Life in general is influential, and not just music. You can talk about life, getting up every morning, feed the children, feed the family, going to work, getting at work. If you ain't got that, you gotta go get it how you get it. So you can't charge it to a nigga with a microphone in his hand. You got all kinds of substances in life, man. It's weird out there. It's really fucked up out there, my nigga. You gotta be conscious about who you are and raise your kids to be better than you.
now that with that issue, the issue with that is, okay, I could come from a good background, all right, and have both of my parents, but at the end of the day, the music, the exposure to the music that is being put on the television, as far as what's being put
I
on
don't
the
need control of that, homie. What they put on TV.
all right, there are no
I have control of what they put on TV. Alright, what's your name, man? What's your name? What you do for a living? What you do for a
I'm
living?
a chef.
Great.
Oh Lord, I don't like that. Yeah, from what he does for a living, he said it, and it seemed like he was just dismissed. Anyway,
I don't think it's. He said it was a chef. I think he just made it. I think he just said all right. Like I don't think he made it. I could be reading it negatively, but that would
maybe
be a pump like that.
all the same. I don't even know like how did Birdman end up in this situation where he's at a random church? I mean, I guess he's doing community outreach, but anyway, uh, if you could, maybe y'all could understand that better than I can. What I generally glean from it, from what I recall, is on one end he's saying, the classic response of, regardless of what's put out in the culture or the ecosystem, it's it's on parents to control like what their kids are consuming and ingesting. And there was also a point. I don't know if this we would say this was his um, main point, but there's also an element of like, you know, the average artist or rapper specifically, they're coming from a place of like, one, they're just living their life and they're doing what they can to provide a better life for for their family and their community. Um, so it's like, how can you be too mad at that cycle? Especially when I would say if you outside of some of the music, like even like the most gangster rapper that's just talking about drill and all that, they are having a positive economic and probably in other ways impact on the community. That's just
How would that be?
that's just definition, huh? How would what be?
How would that be? Like, is that a trickle down hood economics? Is that how that works?
I feel like you're trying to like bait me into like something. I'm not
I'm just
even.
being, I'm being facetious, but
I'm not even.
I just don't understand the correlation on how it works. Where because they are making a lot of money, I guess you could say like there's if they're giving back to the hood and the
Yeah,
community.
they're giving back. Obviously, they're a person that's making a lot of money is paying a lot of taxes. Like there's a lot of ways in which just definitionally, if you're making money, you're you're going to give back. And obviously, if somebody made a bunch of money by like I was gonna say slaughtering baby lambs, but slaughtering baby dogs, we wouldn't be with that. But there's levels to what we accept. Anyway, maybe this is just a plain old simple like what does this interaction change y'all or move y'all in any different direction pertaining to this overall conversation of like the I guess the theme is like accountability. The accountability of artists to control what they put out, or is it really not their fault at all? Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that and ask y'all what you think. I will add though real quick. It's kind of tiring because these questions just never get asked to other genres. It's so annoying. But yeah, what do you think, Ace? You think Birdman's explanation made you reconsider this uh question?
No, I think Birdman did a bad job. I, I mean, I guess I did reconsider my thoughts on it, but Birdman's explanation is just like it was. I don't know. I found it to be inadequate because it's like he's not really providing a good rebuttal to what the guy is saying. Like the guy is saying, if you put out the music, I mean, yeah, if you put out this music that inherently has negative messages, um, it's like, why are you doing it? Like, why are you doing it knowing it puts out inherently negative messages? And Birdman's like, well, it's on the parents to teach the kids right. And I think he didn't actually say it's the parents could be controlling what the kids are listening to per se, but um, it seemed like he was going in that direction too. It's like you're still not addressing the question. Like you're in this thing about community outreach, and that's your answer. Parents don't let your kid listen to what I put out, or it's just like not good. Like
Hmm.
you could be the person to stop, or at least in terms of what you're putting out, to stop or to um to put out something with a more positive message, and not like in a corny way, but like um in a I don't know, creative, uh um like grown man type way, like talking to it's still going to come off as corny probably, but like talking
Yeah.
to the youth from with your perspective on life and where you've gone and what you've been through, what you've seen. But and yeah, you're not providing a good answer for that. I do think like there's credibility to saying things like or responding to these questions um more so along the lines of, you're talking about the things that you've gone through, um, good and bad, and like just providing that perspective on your life. I don't think anybody can really take away from a person essentially giving their autobiography through music.
Hmm.
So I kind of think that's still a valid um point, like a valid reason for somebody to put out music that you could interpret it as negative, but that is the thing, right? That what they went through in life is negative. So that's one valid thing you could say. And then there's another one that came to mind. And it's escaping me right now. Maybe when
Is it
Ghost
about
answers, I'll come back to
is
it.
it about the dynamic of like parents moderation, or is it more so what are you talking
Oh
about?
no, no, I remember now. It was also like there are artists who put out put out pretty music with pretty negative, quote unquote, negative messages, but it's like they're playing a role kind of. So it's almost like they're making a movie or making a
Yes.
movie or whatever through their
No
music.
different than a freaking movie about mafia. Ironically, about to
Exactly,
consume a mafia
exactly.
movie.
Yeah, and I mean that's something, to be honest, I can get behind as well. Like I watch all type of stuff, and um if it was in music form and an artist was saying it like in a first person way, I'll probably still think it's fire. Like so, and in that case, I do think it's like in the same way a parent should be, cognizant of what their kids are um watching. I mean, my parents were that way. Um, of course, I skirted the rules, but my parents were that way. Like they should also be aware of what their kids are listening to, and um, if not directly saying you can't listen to this, at least like um just talking through and reasoning with the kids on where their head is at, and try to get a better gauge of how it's actually influencing them, and in the way that parents should be able to do. um but yeah, I mean, you're gonna let your kids watch certain things that are not, quote unquote, positive. It's a similar concept. It can be a similar concept with music. So like, I think those are two legs that artists like Birdman, I guess, can potentially stand on. But yeah, his responses I don't think were very adequate.
It's always sucky, and I really would like to know the science of this, which is it's really not too anything complicated, complex. It's interesting, like I guess also depending on the artist we're talking about. Like when we think of like an artist or a rapper, we think of like somebody skilled with words, but it's just so many artists. Like when you ask them something in an interview, like their answers sound so like juvenile. No pun intended. There's a lot of puns here. Um, yeah. And kind of interesting to the point we're kind of leaning towards with the parents. That's such a I feel like that's one of like the main questions of the world. Like trying to get to the answer of like, I mean, obviously your role as a parent is to like control and moderate what your kids are consuming. It's just interesting because I feel as if, and not to have to focus on our background, but I feel as if like there was probably other factors. Like I'm not saying like they could just let us broad listen to like 50 Cent and G Unit and we would have we would have the same outcome. Um, but it seems like you'll definitely hear stories of like people became in a particular environment, and like if they grew up on like listening to those gangster rappers or some certain movies, Boys in the Hoods, all that stuff. They're definitely going to kind of model their life after that in some ways. But I feel as if like if you just have a strong foundation, like you can consume a lot, and it's not going to really compel you to manifest in a way that you would say is poisoning your community. I don't know. Um, But what about you, Ghost? What do you think of this interaction? Does this move your mind, or do you think it'll move the needle at all when it comes to this conversation of like whose fault is it when it comes to like an artist and what they put out to the community?
I don't think it's gonna move the needle. I also think it's a difficult question to answer if you're Birdman because it's like you can't really say much. I honestly think I don't think his answer was good, but it probably was the best answer he could have given. Because if I was in his position and someone asked me that, I don't know what I would say because it's like you can't really say anything to be honest. I do agree with what you were just saying, Quest, in that if you have a strong foundation, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but the exposure you have to certain things matters a lot less. Like personally, we've talked about this a million times with hip hop and influence, negative, positive, all that. Like when I listen to hip hop or music in general, it really doesn't have any effects of um, any I don't want to say any negative effect, but it doesn't compel me to do what these artists are doing or live the life they're living. I look at it as kind of like again like a movie. But again, that's thankfully because I have a very good foundation and I was raised the good way. But if you like think about like the especially like the early 2000s music videos where the artists are like living it up. They got all these women on their arms and they got 50 million cars and rich as hell. If you and again, I was thankfully I did not grow up in like the ghetto or not, and I didn't grow up poor. If I did and I'm living my life and then I see this in a music video and I'm thinking like, damn, I want to live like that. And I'm thinking, okay, how did he get to live like that? Well, what is he promoting in his music? He's promoting he was marketing this dude and selling about this and that. Again, I'm not speaking of Birdman specifically because I have never been a Birdman fan or listener.
Nobody
But
is a
just
Birdman fan.
true, but just like generally speaking, it's especially if you're a kid and you're you're exposed to that because no matter what I can say now, like again, I've never really felt all that compelled by music, but when you were youngest and when you're most susceptible to being influenced by outside sources when you and by sources in general because that's when you're like developing your brain if you see that and you put in your mind for whatever reason like dang I want to live like that like how many just flipping it to like a sports analogy how many sports stars have you heard the stories of them being young and they go to a game and then they when they're like 8 years old or something, and they think, "Dang, I want to do this when I get older," and that influences their life course moving forward on like them being dedicated to playing and practicing and all this. If you flip it to standpoint of rap, you could think like, "Damn, I should be a rapper and I can do what these guys are doing," or you could say, "Dang, I can't rap." Well, what else are they doing? Oh, this is what they're saying doing in the music, this and that. Maybe I should go this route and then it snowballs from there and like I think generally it's a difficult just a difficult balance to find in this conversation because I'm also not of the belief that all the dumb news takes of oh hip hop is the number one cause of violence no that's absolutely not what I'm saying but I do think there is a difference like when you look at like you talked about Sopranos earlier, The Wire, shows that, or even Breaking Bad, shows that are predominantly based around people that are either not good or they're doing wrong. But how are these shows framing that? And again, some stuff is going to be lost on the kids, so they might not see all the subtleties. But if you look at these shows, these guys are not portrayed as like everything's going great for them and they're good people and they're happy because they're doing this. A lot of it is the drawbacks and the negatives of them perpetuating this violence or whatever they're doing mafia boss or kingpin. And I think that the intent behind what you're showing, because you can show things, but if you show it as a negative, like there's plenty of rap that talks about stuff that rappers used to do, but it's not looked at as, dang, yeah, this is the best. This is what we should be aspiring to. It's looked at as, this is how I used to live, but I'm trying to get out of that mindset. You can flip it like that. That's definitely possible. But I think just in general, it's a difficult question to answer. It's not an easy discussion to have because of the reasons we just went through. But I also think Birdman's response was trash.
Yeah, and again, the only reason why I kind of focus on that is again because it feels as if obviously he's more of like the on the management side of the music, but he also did put out albums and songs, so it's just kind of interesting. Like again, an artist who's in the business of like speaking or putting words together, and I think you kind of said something like it's not, or one of y'all said something. It's not necessarily on them to have the great answer because this is a kind of a complex question or like conversation. But I feel as if like artists that are like ingrained in the culture, they should have like Birdman's probably heard this since he was young. He should some artists should have like some level of like even if it's like just a talking point answer at this point, it should be like something like he's kind of talking like this like no one's ever asked him this, which maybe he hasn't been confronted in a long time since he's been such a boss.
I think the crazy part is this is probably the best he could come up with. Like I think when he started talking, he thought he was cooking. Like he thought he had something.
Do y'all remember that scene in the Boondocks with Thug Differson and his posse, and they were talking about Huey Reading?
Yeah.
And that dude, I think he's supposed to be a Birdman parody, and he was talking just how dope Reading was. That's what came to mind for me, like the way that he was talking. It's like thinking he's saying a lot of stuff, but it's really just nonsense.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, absolutely. I was checking out the comments, and I think this one kind of gets to like the answer to some of this because, again, when we talk about foundation, like our foundation, like even this kind of relative and like what does that mean? The one thing I don't like about this comment is it kind of framing it in like stuff that's affects black people and white people. But again, I think they're in general right, and I'll read it. So somebody said, I also don't like the fact that I don't know who's behind the profile. It's a Caucasian man. But anyway, someone said the problem is we worship / idolize celebrities because if we didn't, we wouldn't care what they are saying in their music. White artists spurs poison, but white people look at it as entertainment. Like you would as a movie, but black folks, I think you meant folks, we look, this is a black and brown brother, but we look at music as life. That's the problem. And I think outside of like what white people do or quote unquote black and brown people do, I think one thing if you grew up in a Israelite space, one thing you know for certain is the concept of rejection of idols, anything that's you're pedestalizing. At least I'm speaking for myself, and just the scriptures in general. I'll try to circle back to the scriptures. I think one way to get it, a lot of the answers to this is like you really have to drill in young people, especially. Don't idolize, don't pedestalize, don't make anybody, don't overly glorify any human. And I think that's for me kind of why I look at, partially the reason why, like, no matter what artist, even if I super inundated with their music or I love their sonics, I'm not gonna let it influence me to any great extent. Although I am on record, the highest level of influence I feel like I got from hip hop is when Lupe said what he said, and it's been so long, and we spit fire shorts and SB dunks. And from that moment on, I wanted Nike SB Dunk so badly.
You can't tell me you didn't start wanting to skate after you heard Kick Push.
I wanted to skate before Kick Push, but that definitely pushed me.
That's fair.
It definitely pushed me in that direction. I feel like we grew up on Rocket Power. That's what compelled us to want to do all that sports.
Yo, true. Yeah, that's a throwback, yo.
But anyway, oh yeah, and even this comment even addresses the one that you have on screen even addresses this too. Like rock artists make music about Satanism, murder, violence, and white people don't care. Black artists make music about the streets and reality that's lived by the community. Let people make music and make what they want to make. And again, I don't think it's black or brown or white or any other type of culture. I just think anybody can ingrain like don't overly idolize or care about artists. Like if you want to consume something, you know, feel free to just be mindful how it's influencing you or impacting you.
Something
Yeah,
I just
I will
realized
say-
it was the pastor that was pressing him. I thought it was just some random. I don't want to say random. I thought it was just another
Oh, it was a
person in
pastor?
the church. Apparently, that's interesting. But sorry, what you say, Nice?
Real quick, I was just gonna say, I mean, we probably shouldn't oversimplify the cultural aspect of it either with like the different genres, because I mean, satanic panic was a thing, and I think white people do still get up, or some older white people get up in a tizzy
That's a
about
good point.
satanic lyrics or just whatever some of the lyrics in these hardcore metalcore bands. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And I definitely don't want to be dismissive of that. Sorry if I was, it was sounding like that. And so much that, like, that's one of the things, I don't know if y'all notice it, and I don't know what content y'all listen to, but it feels like we kind of circled back to a time where, like, people are, like, overly critical of hip hop artists and, like, really saying, like, they're, this person was saying, like, poison the community. And I don't have an issue with that, but it just sounds so weird coming from people in our generation, because probably most generations experience this. But doesn't it really feel like our generation really was at the height of like kind of what you're describing, like the panic of like all the content that was coming out? Like I feel as if like it's so annoying that like people in our generation almost like became our parents. Where like, oh, don't listen to hip hop. Don't watch that show on Nickelodeon because this person is doing something that's unrighteous. Like, you can't watch that. You can't watch this cartoon. Like, you shouldn't be listening to that. Like, this is gonna poison you. This is demonic. Like everything was demonic back in the day, and it feels like we circle back to that, and that's like the most mind-boggling thing to me.
Would you say? I'm just curious. Would you say that our generation, which what are Gen Z? I don't even know, but is that mindset really prevalent now? I feel like a lot of it is like the stay off phones and tablets when you can, but that what you're describing, I feel like that's more so like our parents, like I think this boomer generation, than
And that's what
our generation. I could be wrong, but
And
I'm
that's
just
why
curious.
that's why I asked you. I guess it depends, I don't know what y'all consume, but I've definitely listened to, because obviously, again, not talking about politics, but you guys are probably privy to like the general like I don't even call it conservative mindset is kind of dominating certain spaces. I don't want to like start calling out any particular content creators, but there's definitely this weird semblance of like pushing conservatism or like we need to. It kind of does. It is the kind of like the "Make America Great Again" crowd. To be honest, it's like a lot of that is kind of stupid and like we're like ruining like America by pushing some of this stuff, and a lot of it is people our age, if not younger. It's the crazy part. But again, if you're not listening to any of this stuff, then it would be like, yeah. But I've heard people that are literally my age talk about like rappers like they're the worst thing in the world, and I don't have any problem with that. It's just like it's just so weird that we became our parents. Anyway, but let us know what y'all think. should we kind of clamp down on the hip hop these days? And I don't even know what do people think we should replace the music that's out these days with? Anyway, if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.
I would say jazz.
I have no
Well,
idea.
I don't even think he would, because he doesn't even listen to new jazz really. It's mostly old stuff.
I don't even know why jazz isn't more popular.
Yeah, that's a good point.